Ayin Ches 78. From Yezer ben Yaakov, this river that's going to come out from Kodesh Kadoshim is going to leave the threshold of the Beis Hamikdash. It'll get bigger until it gets to the opening of the Beis David. It's like a roaring river. That people who need to go to a mikveh can go there. From here is a raya that a need has to, the size of the volume of a mikveh is for a person to go up to their shoulders. But the less hilchos kavase, the halacha is it's just got to be able to go completely into the mikveh. So tinich yom kippurim deleka minol. We said you're allowed to cross a river on Yom Kippur because you're not wearing shoes. But Shabbos dika minol mai. What about on Shabbos? So you're allowed to cross a river. You're wearing shoes, and it's a problem with you wearing shoes because the shoes may come off. You may pick them up. I saw Ravami Ravasi. They did walk through a river clothed. Fine. Tinich mano, that's a shoe. Sandal, Michael. What if they were wearing a sandal? He also gave testimony that he saw Ravina walk with a sandal, but Ravashi said, as a gzeira, you shouldn't go with a sandal. It might come off, and you pick it up, you'll be carrying. Reish Galusa ikla lagrunya lebei Rav Nosson. Reish Galusa went to Hagrunya. Rav from V'chulu Rabbanon also lefirke. Rav from the Rabbanon came to hear the drasha. Ravina lo asa. Ravina did not come. Lamach Raboy Rav from Lafukil Ravina b'daiti Reish Galusa. Rav from wanted to make sure that the Reish Galusa was not upset with Ravina. Amarle. So he asked Ravina, my time in law, why didn't you come to the drasha? I have a koiv like karoy. My feet were hurting me. You should have put shoes on. No, but Gaba de Karav, it was higher up, my problem. Then you should have put a sandal on. Yeah, but I have a problem because on the way here, there was a river. And I would have had to go through it with the sandal. Don't you know that Ravashi paskin that you can't go with the sandal? So that's why Ravina didn't come to the drasha. So the Reish Galusa was not angry.
Use that charger.
Tony Yehuda bar Grugras. You cannot even sit on a moist piece of land because of washing. Levi, uvetina mitpachas. It means when you touch it, it becomes wet. It has to be so wet that it could wet something else. You can take cold fruit and put it on your skin to cool you off. Rav Yudah mitztanim bekara. He would cool himself off with a pumpkin or a gourd. Rava mitztanim biyanuka. Rava would bring a child, I guess, who is cooler, would hold the child, would cool him off. Rava mitztanim bekasa de kaspa. He would use a silver cup. Rav papa kasa de kaspa mole osir. If it was filled with water, that would be osir. We're concerned that someone's going to spill and you're going to wash. Osir shari. The pachra aidivadi osir. If it was made out of clay, it would be osir. Mishum de mishchol shachel. Water will certainly sort of fly out of such a kos and will make you wet, and you'll be over for rechitza. That a silver cup, even an empty cup, would be osir. Mishum de mizdarev. It means it's got some water in it. It's a problem because it might spill. Ziri bar Chama ushpich zichin Rabami Ravasi. Ziri was the innkeeper for Rabami Ravasi, Rabbi Shuban Levi, with the Kul Rabbanon de Kesar Haba, and all the Rabbanon who visited Caesarea. Amalei Rav Yosef Rabbi Shuban Levi, Bar Aryeh, person of light. Tell us something that your father would do. He had a handkerchief, he soaked it in water, Erev Yom Kippur. He made it like wet kalim. The next day, he would cool himself off. Erev Tisha B'Av Shor B'Mayim, he would soak it Erev Tisha B'Av as well. He would pass it over his eyes as well on Tisha B'Av. They bring him Erev Tisha B'Av his handkerchief, he would soak it in water. And put it under his head. He'd wash his hands and feet with this handkerchief. The Erev Yom Kippur mevi'in lo mitpachas v'shorsa b'mayim. They did it Erev Yom Kippur. He would make it like some kind of hand cloth. And he would put it over his eyes on Yom Kippur. It's prohibited on Yom Kippur because you're going to squeeze it out. And squeezing is also like it is on Shabbos. Amrav Nashe Bar Tachlifa Amrav Amram Amrav Archana. Shalus Rabbi Lozer Zoken V'Yoshev Yeshiva. A Rebbe who's teaching other Talmidei Chachamim in the yeshiva. Sarech Litol Rishus Late B'Choreh So Einet Sarech. The minhag was to go to the Nasi to ask permission if you could inspect B'Chorehs to see if they had a mum or not. So the more wants to know, what's your question? This halacha that you have to ask reshus from the Nasi is for the covet of the Nasi. Tzarech litol reshus, you have to ask permission. Oh, Dilma kiven the Zokim Yoshe B'Shiva ain't tzarech. Since he himself is a Zakein, a big Talmid Chacham who's teaching other Talmidei Chachamim, he doesn't need to. Amar Rav Tzadok ben Chaluk al Raglav Amar Nira Isit Rav Yossi ben Zimra. I saw Rav Yossi says Zakein v'Yoshe b'Yeshivaya. He was an elder teaching in the yeshiva. The Amad b'Mailam is Kenesh Shel Zev and not to Rishus Later b'Chayres. He still asked permission from the Nasi. That wasn't the story. Rabbi Yosef ben Zimra Koyenaya. It's a different story. He was a Koyen. And this was a different question altogether. Do we say Kohanim were suspected of putting mums into a Bechor, because if the Bechor has a mum, normally you got to give the Bechor to the Koyen. If it's unblemished, the Kohen has to offer it as a korban shlomim. He can eat some of the meat, but some of the meat it has to be treated like kosher. Now, if the animal had a mum, then it becomes chulin, and you can eat it any way you want. It's not kosher. So Kohanim in general were suspected of putting mums in these animals. So maybe someone who's suspected because he's a kohen cannot judge on a case, cannot give testimony. A Kohen is trustworthy about somebody else. He's just not trustworthy for himself. That you could paskin for somebody else. Could you go out with like a rubber shoe on Yom Kippur? Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Nachmani al Raglav Amar Nibra Yitzit Rav Yeshua ben Levi Sheyatza b'sandal shel Shav Yom Kippur. I saw Rav Yeshua go out with rubber shoes on Yom Kippur. V'yamin alei b'tanis tzibur mai. What about tanis tzibur? Amar li lo shnot, no different. Amar Rav Chanani Yitzit Rav Lozer ben Dimin Ninveh Sheyatza b'sandal shel Shav b'tanis tzibur. I saw him go out with a sandal made out of rubber on tanis tzibur. What about the din on Yom Kippur Amrli Loshna makes no difference. Rav Yehuda Nafik Bidihitni. This is like this rubber thing. It's like a gumi. And Abaya Nafik Bidihutsi. These are like palm branches. Rav Nafik Bidiyavli. From grasses. Rav Rahuna Kark Sudra Kar. He put shmatis on his feet. The Nafik. Mostly from Ibarchama. Akiteya, somebody who's an amputee. And he has a prosthetic leg. Yotze b'kavshel div Reb Meir. According to Reb Meir, on Shabbos, you can go out with a prosthetic leg. It's like a shoe. Since you can go out with shoes, it's a takshit, you can go out with this. Rabbi Yossi Oyster, Rabbi Yossi says, no, it's prohibited. The Tani Allah v'shavin she'asur latzitz b'Yom Yom Kippurim. They said it was both prohibited to go on Yom Kippur, and l'chora, even though this is made out of wood, it's considered a shoe. And even though it seems like we've been saying you can go out with grass shoes and rubber shoes, why shouldn't you be able to go out with wooden shoes? Rabbi Hassan, the Isbei Ktitin, Mishum Tanug. This had shmatis in it, and it wasn't because of shoes, it was because he was having too much enjoyment on Yom Kippur. Afraid to Gemara. I understand. If it's not a kli, ktitin majrule mana. So first of all, why would holes to be able to put shmatis, and why would that make it a kli? Od kol tanug lav mana lo b'yom kippur miyoser. Yom Kippur, you're not allowed to wear shoes as tanug, but other pleasures, it's not osir on Yom Kippur. But Rav Huna have a kark sudra karvinofik, like Rav Huna would wrap shmatis around his feet and go out. For od miditani seifim yesh lo beis kibul. If the prosthetic leg has a base kibul, a receptacle, and you can put shmatis there, tome, because it's a kli. The case we're talking about must be without ktitin. Everybody holds it's a shoe, and therefore that's why you can't go out with it on Yom Kippur. The machlokes is by Shabbos that maybe it'll fall and you'll come to carry it. Dalad Amos B'Shus Rabbi. Umar Sofer Loi Gazrinon. A prosthetic leg, the halacha is, if it's lined by leather, it's like a shoe, and would be also on Yom Kippur. And a prosthetic leg on Shabbos, it's not meant to walk, it's meant for Marasai, and you can't go out with it, Rishus Harabim, without an Eruv. It may fall and you'll pick it up. Ton Rabbanon, Tinoikois Mutorn Bekulon. Children, they're permitted all of these things like washing, except Chutz Minilas Asandal. Even the children should not wear shoes. Maishon is Asandal Amri Inchi Avdulay. Because people say the adults put on the shoe. And l'chora, that's a problem that they're not observing this din. What do you mean? Washing and anointing, the people are going to say that the adults did it to the children as well. So Gemara says, yeah, but if we see that the child is washed or anointed, people will say, oh no, that was from yesterday, from Erev Yom Kippur. So sandalami avdilay. Well, if you see a child with a sandal, they'll say that it was also put on yesterday. So Gemara says, no. Sandal avdilay. People don't sleep in their shoes. Damar Shmuel, the boy lemitin tam de mituta l'sai misani veligni. The person wants to taste what death is like, let him go to sleep in his shoes. It's a little bit of death. So
I don't understand. Also, it's not also. If it's not also to wash, and it's not also to, what are we worried about? Married eye on a child over here?
No,
That's what we're worried about.
no, that the adult did it to them. The adult washed them.
Yeah, but the adult washed them. The adult washed them. It seems like from the Gemara that the adult can wash them. It's just what the people will say. It's nothing to do with that. There's an issur. All the children are allowed to do all those things. It doesn't seem that it's an issur.
It says that the people will say that the adults did it. 'Cause since
Ein
the adult
achinami,
cannot
but-
put it. And therefore,
but
they're not being shomer. The adults are not being shomer these halachas properly.
I'm not sure. The Gemara doesn't seem to. The Gemara seems to say that because of Maris Ayn,
Rashi says, "Gedolim asulo, the hatoyre hizhira gedolim alaktanim shlo yasulehem biyadayim davar ha'aser." Because it says emor lakon libnei Aaron lahazir.
It's not a davar asu for the child.
But it's a davar aser for the adult. So you have to teach. It's al chinuch. Lahazir gedolim alaktanim shlo yasulehem biyadayim. So, for example, Walter, if a child went ahead by himself and did something, that's not a problem. But you as the adult shouldn't do it for them. So we Rechitza and Sicha, we said maybe they did it the day before. But sandal cannot be done the day before because nobody sleeps in their shoe.
By the way,
Now
just
now the Gemara says, like you, Avahamu Tarlachat Klila Ktani.
Okay, the Shulchan Aruch doesn't paskins like this. Young children are permitted to eat, drink, bathe, and smear oil on Yom Kippur, but they are not allowed to wear leather shoes. As a single day without wearing shoes does not cause children to suffer unduly. This ruling applies only to a child old enough to understand the mitzvot somewhat. A very young child may wear shoes. During the times when children are not bathed or smeared with oil every day, it's appropriate to refrain from these activities on Yom Kippur. So it doesn't seem to be. It seems that there's a chiluk over here.
Right. So the Gemara says Vahamu Tarlachat Klila Ktani. The Baraisa says it's completely mutter for them. Elahanach delav revisayu. Those things that are not required to help them grow. So gazu b'rabonon, like wearing shoes, it's not part of the nutrition and things that they need to grow. So the chachamim were made with the gzeira, but hanach the revisra, but all these other inuyim, achila, shtiya, rechitza, sicha, they're allowed to do because it's part of their growth. Lo gazu b'rabonon. And yeah, the Shulchan Aruch in Taf Reish Tes Zayin says, Tinoikos mutarn b'achilo shtir rechitza v'sicha b'yom kippur. They're allowed to eat, drink, wash, and anoint. Avalo b'nitzal sandal, no shoes. L'fishem b'zet tzar kol kachlem. It's not such a big pain if they don't wear shoes. Im lo yanuli one day. And it's meduber b'tinuk shekvar yigil chinuch. We're talking about a child who reaches the age of chinuch, so you have to teach him not to wear shoes. If he's really a child, you're not choishish anything, even wearing shoes.
So it's not that doesn't seem to be from what the Gemara says. It's Maris Ayin that somebody will say you put the shoes on. That's what the Havamin of the Gemara was.
Yeah, because but then the Gemara asked, it says mutar l'chatchila.
And yeah, I'm saying.
And it changed. It says so those things that are made for the growth of the child, there's no gzeira. The Amr Abaya Amri Le'em Revisa Dianuka, the growth of a child, Maya Chamimi, warm water, Mishcha, and anointing. Gadol Porti is a little bigger, Be'atag Bekutcha, you give him some egg. Gadol Porti Taburi money, you give him toys so he can break them. Because children take out their frustration. He bought toys that the child could break. I guess that helps the child develop. Takes out his frustrations on the toys to break them. Then the Mishnah said, "V'amelech v'akala yuchatzus pneihem." The melech and the kala can wash their face. Masnisim mani Rav Chanana ben Tradion. The Tanya melech v'akala lo yuchatzus pneihem. The Tanna Kama says a melech and a kala cannot wash. Rav Chanana ben Tradion or Rav Shmuel Belazar, a melech v'akala yuchatzus pneihem. A chaya, a someone who's giving birth, lo tinos a sandal. It doesn't make a difference. She still didn't wear shoes on Yom Kippur. She's allowed to wear shoes. My time, a melech, to see melech biyot. A king has to look beautiful at all times. He has to wash his face. Kala my time, if the kala doesn't wash her face, the chassan will think she's ugly. We want early on in their marriage that the kala always look beautiful. What does early mean? 30 days, she gets all the jewelry that even if she's an avel, and you're not supposed to wear tachshitim, a kala can wear it for 30 days. The yoledes can wear shoes because we don't want her to get a cold. Now, if in this region people are wearing shoes to avoid being bitten by a scorpion, then mutter l'chatchila for everybody, because you don't have to make yourself in a sakana. If there's a sakana, you're going to get bitten by a snake or something like that, or the Ramah adds, so you shouldn't get filthy with mud and other things like that. You can also wear, it's a kula. Okay, very good. So